Next, we're going to make this bar. All it has is this little group over here. I'm going to copy paste this right under. And this time, I'm just going to drag a button in and delete these two. I'm going to let this container stretch all the way horizontal. I'm going to make this width 33% over here and the height at 30. Our text inside is going to be semi-bold and 11 pixels in our white color. I'm going to remove elevation. And this is a little too much padding for me. I'm going to make it 8 and 8. Instead of button, let's just have this say most popular, actually. And I just stretched it out so we can see the whole text. Now let's make this part. I'm going to start by dragging a container in. I'm going to let this stretch the entirety. And let's just make this our white color. Inside this, I want to have something like this that can scroll horizontally. We need to use a list view for this, like it's going up to down, but if we click on the list view again, we can make it horizontal. Now, when I add in these containers, we see them stack like this. And I can keep going, and it's scrollable. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Let's start by building one of these out. I'm going to drag a container in, and this is a static size dimension. So this should be 150 by 235. I want to make the container that it's in a little bit bigger. I'm going to give it a border radius of 8. I want a bigger gap in between these two, the same as this, so I'm going to add some padding. 16 on either side of the parent container popular recipes over here. Now we can start building out what these components look like. To start inside this container, we are going to need a column as we identified earlier. So I'm going to drag that in. As you can see here, we have this top part which consists of this image and then text which are a little bit closer together, and then this bottom part which has time, minutes, and then this icon in its own little container. In order to delineate those, I'm actually going to use two containers. I'm going to make these white for now and gray so we can see the difference, but I will change them back to the appropriate color in a bit. For now, I'm just going to have them share the space equally. In the top one, we have a column of its own, which has one image. Let's make this image much smaller. And then the text under it. This text is going to be our bold black text in 14 pixels. We can have our image be 110 by 110. Now I'm going to give this a smaller height to let this stretch further. And the last thing we want to do is add our padding. So I'm going to go back to this white container that's housing everything. This is going to have maybe 8 pixels of padding on all sides. Then if we go to the column, we can add 8 pixels of space in between these two. Now I'm going to let the column contract. Now we can add stuff to this container. This is very similar to what we did here, so we're going to start by adding in a row. Then a container and an icon on the other side. This container will have a column with 2 things of text in it. I just dragged an icon in here, and let's make it a star because we want to be able to save this element. I'm going to make it our accent 1 color. For this top one, it's going to say time. I'm going to make it 11 pixels and gray. This one I'm going to make 11 pixels bold and black. I'm going to give this an arbitrary time of 15 minutes. Now if we go back to the column, instead of having them in the center like so, I'm going to make them offset to the left, and I want a little more space in between them. So I'm going to set it up like this. For the row, I want these 2 elements on opposite sides. I'm going to go ahead and add 8 pixels of padding on all sides of the row. Now I can change this to say classic Greek salad. All of this will become dynamic, but for now, I'm going to keep it like this. I'm going to make this center line and make this container our gray color. I'm going to add back our rounded borders. Looks great if we keep copy pasting these containers into the list view. We can get an idea of what this would look like. And also that we most definitely need some padding in between each of these. I think 16 pixels is most appropriate. I'm also going to go ahead and make these borders a little more round. Under that, I'm going to add something very similar to this row. Just copy and paste this. Copy and paste this container over here. Instead of a button, I'm just going to drag some text in, delete the button. Can be 16 pixels, semi-bold black, and read new recipes. Now we want something exactly like what we built before, this list view. So I'm going to go here, popular recipes, and just copy paste that container. But the dimensions are going to be a little different. I'm going to squish this down a bunch. Make this container about 100 pixels. Actually might go up to 120. But we can make the width of every individual container a lot more. Let's choose 270. And I'm going to go and delete these extra containers. Now this bottom stack is really almost made. Here we have a row. We have a container here that's housing this, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this widget. Now it's just a container, and we can drag a row in. This row is going to have a teeny tiny photo. Let's make it super duper small. And then some text. On the other side, we want another container, so I'm going to wrap this in a container. So I'm going to wrap this in a container. Inside the container, I'm going to take this call icon, also wrap it in a row. And then inside the row, let's add some text as well. So now we have image, text, icon, text, image. You can't really see the text in here. Image, text, icon, text. Perfect. This image can be 25 by 25. Let's make it a circle. Perfect. And then we are going to do light gray and say by someone. Let's say Aanya Shah. That's my name. For this, we want an icon. Let's choose time. I'm going to make it our gray color. And this is going to be the same gray color in 11 pixels. Click on the row, make them left aligned, and then add 8 pixels of spacing in between. These ones are going to be right aligned and have 8 pixels of spacing as well. These containers should actually be a white color, and give it a little box shadow. No offset, we can say blur is that, and the shadow color is fine. All of these containers are now this gray color, so we want to make sure we set it back to our primary background white. I'm going to say the box shadow is our secondary text, this gray color. Reduce the opacity even more, and we can make the blur 8. I'm actually going to make the blur 16. Now we can go and deal with the top container. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. We just want the container. And I'm going to add a row in it. This row is going to contain text and then an image. Text and then an image. I made the image very tiny for now. This text is going to be 14, semi-bold, and then in our black color. And I'm going to make the image 60 by 60 pixels. Gonna have the row split these all the way. This image is now, let's make it 115 by 100. And this text can just say tomato and cheese. Gonna go back to this row and add 8 pixels of gap spacing. I went back into this row and added 8 pixels of gap spacing between these two, just to prevent the text from getting too long. This is hello world. Let's make this 15 minutes. This is a nice looking home screen now. I know it was kind of slow moving, this video, but these are really foundations, and in the future everything's going to go much quicker because now we know how to build responsively. In the next video, we're going to learn how to add actions to our page and navigate.